in the 1930s, in the Depression, what did you have to do to make a living?
My father was a steam shovel operator. He ran any kind of road building equipment. He had been a locomotive engineer, I believe on the Lehigh Valley, but the Lackawanna and the NYO&W, New York, Ontario, and Western, that railroad, I had uncles that were engineers, and one that was a conductor. My uncle Jeremiah was a conductor on the, it runs up through the New England states. I forget the initials and the name of the railroad. He retired from there. But
How did you find work in the 1930s?
I didn't get out of high school until I was 1937, but summers, I think 1935, that was before Social Security requirement. You couldn't work unless you had a Social Security card. But I started highway construction in 1937. I helped build the road up Mile Hill, just west of Tunkhannock, and also the highway over toward Nicholson. My father worked early in that endeavor and did grading with his steam shovel. My dad was one of the best. They sent him to places. They wanted him to go to Panama and teach on part of the construction of the Panama Canal. My dad was an uneducated, yet a highly intelligent person. He didn't write too well. His vocabulary was good, and he could read the Bible, suffered a stroke, and was really handicapped. I didn't really become active in the valley outside of a bit of trapping and fishing and guiding, etc., until 1937, when I graduated as class president, relinquished the valedictorian because I wasn't going to go to college. I was going to go to work by necessity.
What were some of the first jobs that you actually had?
One of the first jobs that I had, well, you could get a job with any farmer pulling weeds or following a mule or a horse, but one of the first, you might call it a job, was construction work for Tyler and Cole, and one of the earliest notable sites was the Mile Hill Highway, which is Route 6 west of Tunkhannock. I helped the grading, the cracking of stone, the preparing of the base, and the fine grading. And some other good boys that are gone worked with me on that, pushing a fine grading board, kind of a primitive thing, but it did an accurate job and saved concrete. I don't have any pictures of that, but I got a clear memory of it. I worked hard there. That was one of my earliest jobs, and whenever highway construction came up, it was for 45 cents an hour you could get work. Cracking rock, digging sluiceways, drainage, crude grading before the fine grading operation and the pouring of the concrete. The fine grading, they usually put a layer of sand because 10 feet of improperly graded concrete base, if it was too deep, that was expensive for the concrete. And it was really a highly competitive thing making concrete roads. I saw the first of them. When we moved to Tunkhannock, there was a short section of concrete midtown in Tunkhannock, below the still existing traffic light on the road that goes up to Montrose and south to the Wyoming Valley, west to Towanda, Mashopin, Mahoopany, and east the whole distance.
Now, you started working steel. You started welding and working steel. And And where did that take you when you started doing the steel work?
All over the United States. And then when I became a superintendent, I was Canada, Mexico, Guatemala, and followed sugar industry, Procter & Gamble, soap products manufacturing in Mexico City. Ford Motor Company had a big plant there. I didn't work there for them. But I started traveling for various steel construction companies, such as Chicago Bridge and Iron, worked for Bethlehem Steel, Hammond Iron Works, General American Transportation, which primarily their business was following the petroleum industry, large storage tanks, transmission lines, and small and some large refineries, which produce gasoline, motor oils, kerosene, the whole list of distillates that's made of crude oil. And that was really during World War II. That was just getting going, and I was in that occupation. Tried to enlist in the Air Force because I had a solo license. No, your employment is essential. Later, I put unemployed on one. Well, didn't take Uncle Sam long to discover I had fibbed. I was employed at that particular time. Chicago Bridge and Iron, a good company, notable, and I got a little short warning. Your information on your application is false. That's not a good idea. And you don't lie to Uncle Sam about something as serious as enlistment into the armed forces. But your original question, I became really involved in steel construction in 1941, 42, 43.
Now you were in the CBs.
Yes.
All right. How did that come about?
Because I wanted to be as contributory to the war effort as I could be. Why should a man very, very experienced in steel plate construction, I wouldn't give a hoot if it was canal locks or bridges, whatever. Why should you languish in, and you never knew where you were going to get sent, into the infantry, honorable branch of our service. But I was aware of openings and need in the CBs, Naval Construction Battalion, CB, and that initial, and it became SCA-BEES. I didn't go into the CBs. I was refused the right to enlist in anything. I was more essential where I was in the construction, and I had a number of deferments. Then